generations. And now, the power of two restores the one.
We got a bidet! Hey everybody, and welcome back to another video. In today's video, we are covering something that we were very excited for. Needless to say, Tales of the Empire. We got 6 episodes in this little mini season. Of course, they are shorts, just like Tales of the Jedi. And we have 2 new characters that we followed. Because last time we followed Dooku and Ahsoka, and this time we are following Morgan from Ahsoka and Mandalorian, and then Barriss as well from the Clone Wars. And so we're going to talk about the 2 sides, of course, but we're also going to talk about, some of our thoughts about what's going on. How did it compare to the first season with Tales of the Jedi and all that good stuff? So I guess just to kind of kick it off, I was very excited for this show, especially with the Empire attached to it. In the trailer, we see a lot of cool things. We see Vader is supposed to be a part of this. The Inquisitors are a part of this. More importantly, like from my perspective, the Grand Inquisitor, I was excited for that. I also noticed that the little Inquisitor guy that we saw at the end of Tales of the Jedi was supposed to be in this as well. The guy that Ahsoka took out at like the farm area. He was he was really cool. Never seen him before. And so I was really hoping to expand on some of these things because to me, that's kind of the heart of the Empire. At least from the trailer, it looked like it. But I would say that there's definitely an argument that Empire is connecting these stories with a very thin string. Um, I don't know how you guys felt about that, but I almost feel like we were watching something that should have had a different label. It shouldn't have been Tales of the Empire. It should have been I don't, Tales of the New Disney Characters. I don't know, because that's basically what they were covering.
Yeah, it's interesting. Both Barriss and um gosh, why can't I think? Morgan,
Morgan.
they both were like influenced heavily by the Empire, and they both kind of reacted in different ways. Um, so the time skipping, so there was a lot of time skipping with the last 2 characters, but I felt like the time skips we were like settled into them easier. Or maybe they were just kind of around events that we knew a little bit better. I don't know. I wasn't as thrown off by the time changes in the first, in like Tales of the Jedi, but like this one, I had a hard time tracking. Because Morgan is introduced in Mandalorian season 2, in the first Ahsoka episode, and we see her in the same town. But when we see her in Ahsoka, that's actually like the last moment we've seen her. So everything in this show, all 3 episodes are before that. So it's kind of a weird time. I don't know. I guess we get to see the lead up to her becoming the person that's putting people in those cages outside the gate, and um,
Well, I feel like we do and we don't at the same time, right? Because we see her become evil, and I feel like that first episode, at least for me, was pretty strong. Her planet's demolished, everything's decimated, her family's gone. Like that's a really powerful event in her life that would help shape who she's become. And even with the new village that she tries to join and struggles with because their ways are different, like that was all really good character development. But where we went after that, I don't know how she got in power. I don't know how she got elected to that town. I
Mhm.
don't know why she even still sticks around there. Like, what's in it for her? You know what I mean? And one of
Mhm.
the other big pieces was Thrawn. We thought that he was going to be at least a more of a key player than he was in this, and we do see him, but it's for such a faint moment that it really has nothing to do with how she got from Mandalorian to how she got to Ahsoka show where she's with Thrawn. Like, that whole piece is missing.
Yeah, absolutely. They just took out a big like middle section, and we get like the very beginning, where Thrawn gives, well, we see the first episode's kind of just a tragic backstory. Um, but yeah, she meets Thrawn. He essentially gives her the resources to start, you know, basically taking the resources from the planets and the neighboring systems, it sounds like, um, start taking the resources for the Empire for Thrawn's uh whatever he's doing essentially. But
Yeah.
yeah, we don't get to see any of that, so it's kind of weird.
I think one of my big things with that too is, like Sarah said, me thinking about what do I want to learn about Morgan, I wanted to learn about, how did she come into communications with Thrawn? What were they working on together? And do we get that? I mean, technically speaking,
The first
um,
one.
yeah, like we find their first meeting after, I forget what general it was, but whoever it was tested Morgan to see if she would be a worthy person to work with the Empire, and then Thrawn came in and was making his deals with her. But I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I thought in Ahsoka, the show, wasn't it something about like Thrawn now owes Morgan for something, and that's why they were going back. Uh, I thought it was to Dathomir at the end of the show. Like I was wondering, what did she do for? Is this what she did? Like she just got him resources, or is there something a little bit more impactful that she did for Thrawn back then? Like, did he die and he came back, with the witch powers or something? Like I feel like there should have been something more drastic if this was that event.
Right, right. We basically just um see Thrawn evaluate Morgan, see that she has some useful skills. He sees that she's very determined to get what she wants, and yeah, he just tests her to find out what her motivations are. And once he kind of finds out that her motivations come from a really dark place, he's like, okay, cool, you're hired.
Yeah,
Um,
he also emphasized a bit, and just like I think it was the beginning of the second episode, when she was pitching her idea for the new TIE fighters.
yep, giving
And
her PowerPoint presentation.
yeah, and the Empire was like, just don't want to pay for it, blah blah blah. I think they said it, or I was getting the vibe of like, if they want it, they'll just steal it from her later, kind of a thing. But Thrawn kind of echoed the financial side of things too when he was talking to her. So we definitely got that side of things because the Empire keeps talking about budgets for some odd reason throughout their shows. That's why
I
they
think
couldn't close the hole on the Death Star.
They got too many projects going on.
I figured out, Jeremy, what at least Barris's story should have been renamed. I feel like it should have been renamed Tales of Rebellion because she wasn't necessarily becoming some great general or anything for the Empire. And yes, she was part of that, but half of her story arc was how she left and is trying to save other people from being part of the Empire.
Yeah, which is kind of suckish because it seems like a lot of times, as us as the audience, we're like, oh, you're gonna get this tale from the bad guy's point of view. There always has to be some sort of shift. Like when we played Battlefront 2 when it came out from EA, the promise was, hey, you get to be, a TIE fighter squadron pilot, like the leader. and you get to live through what it would be like. And 4 missions out of like, I don't know, 10 or 15 are you being the Empire, because then she switches sides. And so, yeah, it's kind of getting stale where we're feeling like we should be learning more about the Empire, but really we get some of those everybody turns back
Hmm.
motto.
Yeah. I don't know if you guys want to jump to the second three already, or if you want to keep talking about the Morgan episodes a little more.
There was still some more I want to
Um,
talk about the Morgan one, so
okay.
Sorry, I jumped ahead.
You're
that's all
you're
right.
good. It's interesting looking at like both sides of the coin because Morgan was affected by the Empire, came out worse. Well,
Which is great that you brought that up. Do you mind if I cut in for one
go for it.
second here?
Go for it.
So I have the episode names pulled up, and this
Yep,
really bothered me when we were watching. So I loved what they started, but they didn't finish it. So we're watching, and the first episode is the path of fear.
yep,
The second episode is the path of anger.
yep.
The third episode is the path of hate. And so it's the thing that Yoda says, to Anakin, fear leads to anger, anger leads to hate, and there's one more. There's hate leads to suffering. And I thought, wouldn't it have been great to maybe have 4 episodes apiece so they could have like finished off that little poetic piece within Star Wars, but are we supposed to assume that the suffering is what she gets in Mando? Or like, do you know what I'm saying? It's like they tried
Hmm.
to have a Easter egg or a cameo of something from Star Wars and didn't
Well,
didn't land it.
yeah, I think that's the thing is I think it's not explained. Like I think the suffering is the burning we see. It's like she just lights that planet up because the people were, I don't know, just to send a message, I guess.
Yeah, I think they
Um,
were, trying. I think they were like mid revolting, where they were like, you promised all these things, and that's not what's happening. You're just hiding in that little, hut of a house, and uh, they need stuff. They have a sucky way of living because of her, and so, yeah, then she like just burned all those resources to send the message.
yeah. And then having the people like strung up outside the gates and those like electric cages, like she's bad. She's just using people for their resources so she can gain power. I don't exactly quite understand her motivations, like
Same.
what she's trying to get from this. Um, she mentions in I think the third one that she has had a vision. How great it would have been to have seen some visuals to go along with this vision, but she's had a vision of her future or something. Basically, I guess whatever she thinks she needs to do to, I mean, if her plan is to get Thrawn back, then technically she succeeded, right? It just cost her life at the end of the day. Um, kind of, I'm speeding way up to Ahsoka, but if we look at the big picture, I don't know. Morgan was just kind of hurt by the Empire, and then she continued to use that hurt and put it on other people and use them.
So
Um,
going along those lines, what pulled me out of the show within the second episode was the first episode. We like you said before, we get our tragic backstory, and I absolutely love this because the event that we got to see has been talked about a lot, but it hasn't been shown. And like if you play Fallen Order, the Star Wars video game, and you go to Dathomir, the character you run into, Marin, she automatically hates Cal because he has a lightsaber, because of the massacre on Dathomir, whatever they want to call it. And so, it was cool to see what was the event that triggered all that. Now, what happened with that is, it was, for one, it was Grievous, two, it was droids, and I find it hard to believe that she wouldn't be able to connect that to the CIS, the Confederacy of Independent Systems, the bad guys at the time, basically.
Hmm.
And when we get to episode 2, the opening shot is of Coruscant, and I was like, oh, okay. And then the Star Destroyer that comes over, it almost looks like, the Republic one. So I thought maybe we were now jumping to maybe a little later time, maybe Revenge of the Sith-ish, right before the Empire is started. But no, it turns into a Star Destroyer. And I thought to myself, well, then what's the point? Like, because I figured she would be mad at the people that made the droids, because they're the ones that killed her people. What does anybody else have to do with this?
Hmm. Yeah, that's kind of how I felt about it. She says she wants revenge, but revenge on who?
Right.
General Grievous, because he's buried 6 feet under.
Right. That's what I was
So,
thinking too.
like, uh, she wants revenge on the very people she's working for. Like, that's what's so messed up about it all.
Yeah.
Anyway, what do you guys think about General Grievous and the light side Night Sister using the big bubble and
Well, I really liked Grievous. I thought there was like his scenes were super cool.
Mhm.
There was a little like tongue-in-cheek cameo thing, Easter egg, whatever you want to call it, that he did when he was telling his droids to, go kill everybody. He said, wipe them out, all of them, which is an echo back to a line from The Phantom Menace by Darth Sidious, um, which is cool. I mean, they're celebrating the anniversary of that right now, so I thought it was neat. Um, but I thought it was also cool how brutal he was, and I was surprised to see, again, we were talking about like at the end of the Bad Batch, some of the violence that they were depicting on screen. I thought that was interesting to see here too, because I think there was like a Night Sister that was saying something, and then all of a sudden a lightsaber blasts through her chest and stuff. And I thought it was great.
As Morgan's mom.
That was Morgan's
Yeah.
mom. Oh, the one that was killed?
Yeah.
No, she got it worse. You're thinking of a different person. Because Jeremy, I think Jeremy's talking about when he first shows up. He like stabs one of the
Oh,
girls in the back, and
Yeah,
then
and then there was
Barris's
a
mom
second.
kind of fights him with the weapons.
Hmm.
She puts up a little bit of a fight, but at the end of the day, like,
He's got a third arm.
yeah.
Got that jack up his sleeve.
yeah.
As far as the magical lady, yeah, I thought it was all right. I know there's a lot of rumor going around, at least from what I've saw on social media, that Star Wars might be starting to explore magic a bit more. Just because, that's a bit of a gray area in Star Wars as opposed to the Force. And so I thought maybe this was their little testing grounds of doing that, like with the when they were in that little house, and it almost seemed like a Pocahontas and the tree willow type scene in a way with the grandmother tree, to me at least. But I liked it. I thought it was interesting.
Yeah, they I don't know. I mean, it kind of just looks like the forest, right? But she's also blocking like blaster bolts and
Oh
um
yeah, later on.
basically just takes out like the whole dropship with this one move. So I mean, she's pretty powerful. I don't know. I mean, she was like physically drained after that, so it must have taken a lot of energy or whatnot, but I just
Probably
thought
didn't
that
learn
part
that
was pretty.
overnight.
What's that, Sarah?
She probably didn't learn that overnight.
No,
No, absolutely not.
and not in
Um,
3 days. Like, right.
no. And hopefully she's taught that to someone else. Who
I feel
knows?
bad because I actually really like Ray's character, but it's hard to not think about what Ryan Johnson did and be like, how is that even logically possible what you did? But
Hmm.
I digress because we're talking about something else.
Yeah.
Um,
So, something I
Um,
asked Jeremy about before, and Austin, I'm curious if you picked up on this. Did you recognize the assassin that was sent to try to get Morgan?
I did. I know we've seen him in other things.
I think his name was Buck.
Yeah, I didn't know his name until they said it, but I recognized him as like one of the assassins that kind of
He was from Rebels.
lurks around.
Or at least that's where I
Rebels. Okay.
recognized him from, was from Rebels.
Okay. Yeah, I think they've shown his species in Clone Wars as well, if not the same person. But yeah, the first episode, it's like just a small thing, but when this episode's about the path of fear. So Morgan's fear, she kind of corrupts a couple girls of this mountain clan, convinces them that they should go get some weapons just in case. So they go down into this bunker and you can see like a little tiny probe droid like way in the back of the scene, like that kind of sees them. So like that's why they're found so quickly. Um, I didn't see it the first time. I just wanted to point it out this time. But yeah. Um, the second episode had Rook attack. That fight was pretty cool. Um, maybe he was dispatched a little quickly, with a little bit of a boring move, but it is what it is.
I
He wasn't the
also
main force.
I liked I mean it's very subtle of course and you have to like pay really close attention, but I like the detail of her having her staff back because then that also tells us it's pre-Mando. Like when she's fighting with that dude.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, we don't even see it at first, but I think her droid like throws her the spear. Um, so she's ready to go.
And then we
Yeah, I'm
got
trying to think if
the
there's anything else from that episode. I don't really think so.
not
Basically just a
really.
recruitment pitch.
Yeah, it was a lot of exposition and talking, I would say, aside from the little fight with the assassin dude. Um, I think what it really does is it sets up that the people that she's watching over are very unsure about her.
Hmm.
And so when we get to the third episode, that really plays out with them being like, yo, we've kind of recognized this pattern and it's not going to get any better. So if we don't speak up now, it's not going to get any better. And unfortunately for them, that doesn't play out too well.
Hmm.
She gets upset with them and then decides to just burn a lot of their resources to send a message. Smokey
Yeah.
wouldn't be happy.
On top of that, she takes out that squad from the New Republic, blows up their ship.
Hmm.
Um, so
She
she's
killed
not
that
joining the New Republic.
mayor, or whoever she was,
Yeah, the
senator.
representative.
Yeah, that was pretty crazy too.
Yeah. Um, yeah, that whole scene was pretty crazy. Let's see. Oh, she did have a little communicator that went out to Bo-Katan. So that's how we get that's I guess the little breadcrumbs that eventually lead to Ahsoka finding out about Morgan on this planet.
Dang, I thought that was Ahsoka. I didn't know who it was
I
personally.
only knew because I watched with the subtitles because I'm kind of deaf. Um,
Oh,
but
are you one of our friends that can't hear the TV unless the subtitles are on?
I mean, it depends how loud I turn it up. Like sometimes my roommate's sleeping, so.
Yes, I've heard that before. It's funny, but that's cool. I did not know that that's who that was, and so I don't know. I guess I might be a little lost with the connections just because there's so many stories. But
Hmm.
did Ahsoka work side by side with Bo-Katan, or like
I think they're just friends. They knew each other because that's how Mando finds Ahsoka, right? Is from Bo-Katan. So they must be at least communicating a little bit to know each other's whereabouts, ongoings.
gosh,
Um, yeah, I actually, so what we were kind of talking about getting mixed up with the time jumps, for the Morgan episodes, I went because I was thinking this like went around the stuff we knew, but it's all before what we saw of Morgan before.
right?
Um, yeah, because I found out I went back and watched the Mandalorian episode, because I kind of wanted to see what they were doing.
You wanted to see the episode that was called the Path of Suffering, and so you went back and watched it.
Yes. Yes, Jeremy. That is the Mandalorian episode called The Jedi. It's the one where we find Grogu's name. Like that's such a great episode.
Yeah,
Um, but yeah, so that gave me a little bit more idea of like what's going on. So there's like an Asian guy that um at the end of Mando, they like make him the magistrate and like put the robe on him and everything. But in this, he's younger. He's that younger Asian dude that kind of speaks up. So that is like a recurring character. Um, Not that he had a
almost
major role, but
almost feel like I need to go back and watch that now because I mean, he definitely seemed like an important person in this show.
mhm,
I just didn't make that connection.
yeah. Um, so that was kind of cool just to see the lead up to that, I guess. It made these episodes a little bit more satisfying for me. But knowing where Morgan's end is, I'm still like, why?
I
But
just, I guess my final thoughts on it. I feel like with Tales of the Jedi, of course, these are shorts, so they don't have much time. I feel like with Tales of the Jedi, they were more efficient with their time because here, if we think about it, we saw, the Dathomir situation.
yeah, that was a
And
pretty extensive like episode.
that's basically all that happened in the first episode, but
Mhm,
aside from, knowing that she's upset with them.
yeah.
The second episode, we established that she meets Thrawn, but we don't really get a lot of substance from it. And then the third episode, we just figure out really how she establishes, her fear amongst everybody else. And then that's about it. And I feel like there just wasn't I if I think back to Tales of the Jedi, I can just ramble off different things that I could tell you that I was like, this was so cool that we got to see. This was so neat. We learned this. And here I'm just like, I think we probably knew we were gonna see this stuff, but it
Hmm.
didn't add to what we thought we would see.
Yeah. Everything, um, they basically turned a line of exposition from Mandalorian into these three shorts. Uh, there's like a line in that Mandalorian episode where Ahsoka's like, yeah, Morgan's like pillaged, these aren't the right words, but she's basically pillaged the surrounding systems of all their resources and developed an empire. And then Mando's like, yeah, it looks like she's still in business here. Um, and it's like, so they turned that into these shorts, basically, is kind of how I viewed it. But
Mm.
you're right. We don't get to see like the resource taking and what she's doing to these other places. They kind of skip over the details, but
Yeah. What do you think, Sarah, of Morgan's side of things?
Uh, I don't know what to add that I haven't said already, to be quite honest. Um, Part of it, I liked the first episode. The other two were okay, but just to echo what you guys said, we didn't really get to see a whole lot of why she was the way that she was.
Yeah, aside from what we knew.
mhm.
Well, I mean, we knew she was angry at, what happened to her planet, but how she got to power of that, how she convinced them that she could help them, like I want to see her be manipulative, not just her
Hmm.
being a jerk. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
like working our way up and
Yeah.
helping Thrawn. That's kind of what we wanted, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Was there a project that she worked on with Thrawn that we don't know about? And that could have been interesting to see that explains something else within the Empire. I don't know. I mean, we did learn that she was the brains behind that TIE fighter, but at the same time, it's like, okay, I didn't really need that. It's not juicy. Okay.
Yeah, like they're adding substance to her character without really adding any substance. They're like, well, she's a fighter and sometimes there's magic stuff going on. Um, and then they're like, oh, and she's really smart and she knows all this technical engineering stuff as well. So it's like, I don't know, they're just like making her this like super character without actually giving her like reasons for people to care about her
Right.
as a character.
And I will say, although I feel like, I have a very um, dissatisfaction with Morgan's side of the series, I would say I think her side was a little better for me just
Hmm.
because she was a bad guy and they let her stay bad. They didn't, just turn her around. So I
Yeah.
really liked that aspect. I feel like that should have been the the end goal of these empire things. Is just these people are bad.
We've seen
That's the
redemption
thing.
stories a million times over. That's not really what I'd expect out of Tales from the Empire, you
Yeah,
know?
at least I expected to see, what are some more of the inner workings of the empire. We've been watching shows like the Bad Batch showed it quite a bit with, just the bad things that they're doing and how they're doing it. Same thing with Andor.
Or
Yeah. So like maybe we could even gotten some more if it was a completely different story. We could have explored like those prisons maybe a little bit that he was encountering, or maybe we could have learned what's his face's story, the guy that didn't make that we don't know if he made it out. Andy Serkis's character, the one way out guy.
Oh yeah.
I think that would have been cool because it would have
Yeah, that would have
explored
been
what's
cool.
going on with the Empire. But
Maybe like how he ended up in the prison or something.
yeah, and
Is that
then seeing more about the inner workings of like the prison system and stuff. I
yeah.
know we got a lot from Andor, but still, I think there could be more to be explored.
Hmm. Um, yeah, should we move on to Barris here?
Yeah, because we spent a lot of time on
Yeah,
Morgan.
we're
We should
we're
get
probably
moving on.
nearing the length of the episodes at this point. But
Yeah.
um yeah, so Barris gets her own 3 episodes. Um so she is currently being held captive for all this, framing Ahsoka and the bombing and everything from Clone Wars. Um but her issue is with the Jedi, who have now been declared criminals. So her record's looking kind of good now, all of a sudden. So they bust her out of prison,
They being
and
Inquisitors, right?
yes, the Inquisitors. Um, and they think she's going to be a good recruit, basically. So I think I think it's even she knows the person that comes in. It was a former Jedi that she knew. Um, and yeah, just gives her a little recruitment pitch, and then it's kind of come with me or die is kind of the option
Right.
she's given, but um, she leaves. She goes with them. She decides she wants to live.
Yeah, and
Uh,
then she gets like so when she gets there, she's starting to learn a bit more about the Inquisitors, and we can see that the place that they stay at is still under construction, so it's being built at this point, very early on, and we meet another Jedi character, um,
we're probably
and
about here on the castle level.
right, and eventually we get to the part from the trailer where the Grand Inquisitor mentions, "Hey, we got one spot open." Throws a lightsaber in the middle of the arena and says, "There you go." And then we have this little battle royale thing happening from Fortnite where the walls are closing in, and if someone doesn't die, well then you both die, kind of a thing. So she does take it upon herself to be the winner in this case, and we figure out how she becomes an Inquisitor. I think I don't remember if it's this episode or the second episode where we see Vader in the whole little chamber
Uh,
area.
very end of this one. Yeah, this one she just like getting the whole Inquisitor speech. I don't know. So they start with like 3 recruits. One of them leaves his cell when he's told not to. It's implied that he's
Taken care
no
of.
longer living. And then yeah, the other 2 have to fight it out in the Thunderdome in the cage match. Eris doesn't even want to fight the other person, but he grabs the saber first, so she kind of has to fight back. Um, the move she uses to take him out, she's actually kind of at a little disadvantage, so she has to do a kind of a brutal move. She goes for the force choke and just yeets him over the edge. But um, she passed the final test. She got a cool helmet, became an Inquisitor, and then yeah, Vader shows up, and then he's the leader of their new coven.
And he does absolutely nothing.
Absolutely nothing, but look cool.
And I'm pretty sure this was the scene where that other Inquisitor was at least shown, the one from Tales of the Jedi.
Yeah,
Absolutely does nothing either.
yeah. It's like a
Nope.
training sort of
Yeah,
where he's trying to get Barris to use her, basically embrace the dark side, embrace fear and that kind of stuff. Try to like, attack him in a way that is gonna not just injure him, but do some damage. He's trying to just change her mindset.
we get a little bit of Inquisitor professional development.
Yes,
Yeah.
she passed the test so far.
Yeah, so then she gets
Um,
to carry on into the second episode and start going on some missions.
mhm.
And honestly, I thought this was kind of an eye-opening episode too, with, oh, they went there kind of a thing, because it's very similar to Kenobi. I thought it was interesting how they played this, you know, Barriss and her teacher, I would call it, or partner, whoever, they go to a planet and they're searching for a Jedi, just like the Kenobi show. They show up in the middle of Tatooine and they're looking for the Jedi at the bar and all that good stuff. And so it's interesting here because I they're questioning everybody, and then I think it was like a little kid or something. Someone was like they whispered to, I think it was Barriss, saying, so and so's out in the mountains. And so Barriss tells her partner, we know where they're at. So then I should know her name. What
Lynn.
is what sister is she?
I don't know what sister.
The fourth sister?
Okay.
The fourth sister basically gets very angry and says, "You guys have been lying to me. You're trying to protect this Jedi," and she just slaughters everybody. Most of it is pretty much off screen, but I'm pretty sure not one soul was alive at the end of all that. Did the kid survive?
The
The
kid
kid.
made it
Yep.
out. He was
Okay, the
hiding
kid
behind
made it out.
Barris. Yeah.
So this was kind of like that first instance where Barris is like, "Oh my God," because Barris had thought, "Well, we found out what we needed. Now let's just go do our mission." But then there's the extra, right? And so this is kind of her first raising of the eyebrow of what am I really doing here? And so they go out to the mountain. They find a Jedi that is hiding out there. I didn't think that there was a significant Jedi. It seemed like just kind of a random dude. I didn't recognize him. Did you?
I didn't recognize them either.
Yeah, I didn't recognize them. I think they are a new character. I think.
So,
They put up a pretty good fight.
yeah.
Uh, um, yeah, they dispatched the fourth sister. Try to even take her out, but then Barris saves her. And then Barris tries to reason with the Jedi that they find, and she's basically trying to turn them over to their side. But really, it ends up just causing a distraction. And then Lynn comes up, gets him a little lightsaber spike. Um, that guy's not doing so good either.
Yeah.
Um, and then this is now another message for Barris where she sees, okay, these Inquisitors are, I don't like the way
Ruthless.
they do things, basically.
Yeah. And then I think this is kind of what rolls into the third episode. I'll be 100% honest with you. I didn't care one bit about this episode, so I don't remember very much. I know she like tricks the fourth sister in like this maze and stuff, but it really turned me away that she had to come back to the light. Like, if you think about it, what is this episode teaching us about the Empire?
They're
Nothing.
bad. Yeah.
We know
Stuff
that.
we already stuff we already knew.
Right. So, I don't know.
Even the most ruthless can still turn to be out to be good because that's what she did was she convinced the fourth sister to be a good person again. Just like all
Actually
the other
true.
sisters.
Yeah, there's a lot of messaging going on, like the whole last conversation they have. Um, because yeah, I mean we didn't touch on like what happens, but yeah, there's a Barris is now known as a healer, which we don't know, much like Morgan's store, a giant piece is missing. We've done another time jump, but Barris is now a healer. Um, she even tried to help the Jedi at the end of the last episode. We don't know if they survived or not. But she said, I won't let you die, so maybe. Lynn, on the other hand, got force pushed off a cliff, so we should think that she's dead, but she's not. She shows up on this ice planet later.
Oh, okay. I want to interject for that 1 second.
Yeah.
Because I agree that that should be a thing, but we do learn from Kylo Ren's arc that the dark side users are
hmm
taught to stop themselves right before they hit the ground. So that's why she would survive. Just a
Uh,
little plug-in.
oh, sure. Okay, like a force, like controlled descent kind of thing.
Yeah, like you know when in the Kenobi show how Kenobi stopped Leia from hitting the ground when she fell off the building or was pushed off.
Yeah, he just like force grabbed her.
Yeah, so it's kind of like that, but they can just do it on themselves.
Why
Okay.
wouldn't the Jedi teach that too?
I don't know. Maybe that's a hateful thing. I don't know.
The Jedi seem to do like big acrobatic, graceful jumps. I don't know. It must be the same skill set, but either way, yeah, I mean a capable Jedi could easily survive being, you know, that being pushed off a cliff. I was just like, I wasn't surprised at all seeing her in the third episode, I guess is kind of where I was going with that. I didn't
Same
think
with
Yeah.
it
that she
being
was
Disney.
dead. But yeah, people show up looking for a healer for their child. Turns out the kid's fine. But the Empire was interested in the child after they tested their blood. So this goes right back to the Bad Batch that we just watched. The Empire is interested in kids with certain something going on with their blood. Um, so that's must be for something bad, obviously. Necromancer or whatnot. Um, but Barris gets the family to safety. She has a couple followers. One of them's like a little hedgehog guy. He's cool. But they
I did like him. He was cute.
yeah, they escort the family through a cave and get them on a shuttle and they're out of here. Barris, on the other hand, sticks around, finds her friend in the cave, former friend in the cave. Um, and yeah, Barris ends up taking a little stab to the abdomen as well. I'm sure she'll be fine.
Yep, I'm sure she will be too. Especially if she can heal herself. She's a
Yes,
healer.
she is a healer.
I will
Uh,
say, the healer thing is a nice connection back to Legends, like pre-Disney. There's
mhm.
actually a Clone Wars book written. It was called, I got it pulled up here. It was called MedStar 2 Jedi Healer. And it was all about Barriss going to the planet Drongar, it looks like. I don't know if that's how you pronounce it, but she is the Jedi healer going to help the clones and stuff.
Okay, cool. I didn't know about that story. Um, that's pretty cool. Um,
Checks out.
yeah, checks out. So all their stuff at the end, Barris is saying, Lynn, throw away your weapon and I'll show you the way out. Basically, if you look at it from a different lens, telling her kind of, lay down your Inquisitor lightsaber and I'll show you away from the Order. You don't have to be with those guys. And she's even worried about going back to them. She's afraid of like what they're gonna do to her, how they're gonna punish her because of her failure for not capturing the kid that she was after. But Barris eventually seems like she kind of gets through to her after getting accidentally on purpose stabbed. But yeah, the Inquisitor says there's no way out. And then Barris says that's what the Empire wants you to think. There is a way out.
Very symbolic. There's one way out.
Yeah. And there's also a way out of the cave, which they end up finding. And then the credits roll. So, yeah, that's what we get with Barris. She almost starts in a way where we first meet her in a weird way back in like Clone Wars. So she's really done a lot of flip-flopping. I mean, it seems like her flopping to an Inquisitor was out of kind of like survival. So I don't know if it's that her ideals really have changed that much, but I don't know. What did you guys think about Barris?
So I didn't remember much about her, to be honest. I know leading up
I
to
didn't
the
even know she
show,
existed.
yeah, because you hadn't seen the show yet. But leading up to this show, a lot of people were saying, if we're going to be watching a Barris story, a lot of people were interested in seeing what was happening with Barris. Where are we going to see, again, not my words, internet. A lot of people thought that this character is the perfect person to go up against Ahsoka because, of what the issue that they had at the end of Clone Wars. And so I was like, well, that would be pretty cool to see, And so I don't know, with seeing what happened, I was on board with the Inquisitor stuff. I thought that was kind of cool. But again, I feel like I liked the first two episodes and then I didn't care too much for the last one. The time jumps didn't bother me as much with Barris, I don't think, just because it's like, how did she? I think they did better with Barris's story in this sense than Morgan's, because Barris, we didn't really know anything about her for this time frame. And so they showed us how did she get there. The second episode, they showed us, what is
How does she react to being
yeah, how is she responding to being an Inquisitor and seeing what's going on in the world or the galaxy? And then we see, the cap off of, her final goodbye to the Inquisitors and trying to be a better person. So I feel like this one was more uh, concentrated on something about the character, whereas the other one was what are three things we can say about her in a way.
I almost feel like Morgan's was an outsider looking in and kind of watching Morgan's life, whereas with Barris, it was kind of we're put in her shoes and made to think, how would I react to that?
I could see that.
It feels more personal.
hmm Yeah, I definitely felt more connected to the Barris story, even if I didn't like those episodes as much, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think they both have their strengths and weaknesses for sure when comparing against one another. Um, I I don't know. I feel like if the third episode for Barris would have been maybe a little more interesting, maybe I would have liked it more because I feel like we could almost predict what was going to happen in the final episode based on what happened in the second one. Like she's always with the Fourth Sister, so Fourth Sister's probably going to be, doing something there. Whereas I thought it would have been cool, maybe the Grand Inquisitor shows up, the manager has arrived, kind of a thing. Because clearly the fourth sister couldn't take care of things in the second episode, why on earth would they send her again to go try and take care of it? She failed the second time, technically.
Yeah. Well, it seems like she was just after the kid, right? I
Oh, I
think.
see what you're saying.
Like, I think she found Barris by mistake. Well,
Could be.
you know, all destiny and whatnot. But um,
I don't know if I answered your question. I'm
I
just
think
thinking back to it.
I think so. Yeah, I think I was just wondering. Yeah, basically, I think you answered it. Yeah, I was just basically wondering what you guys thought of these, and I liked how Barris, uh, I don't know, I mentioned this earlier, but they both like saw the bad stuff going on and reacted like different ways.
Yeah. Which, I mean, in a way, um, with Morgan's side of things, she stayed with it. And so I would, in my opinion, I think she has the suffering, moving
Hmm.
forward with her life in that community, whereas Barris does not when thinking back to that little dark side poetry thing going on.
Hmm. Yeah, I definitely was not expecting to see a Jedi turn back good during the Tales of the Empire. That was not on my bingo card.
No, definitely not mine either. But I don't know. What I will say though, just thinking to the future, if there's another Tales of season, I think I'm gonna be a little bit more cautious. Even if it sounds exciting, I think we're gonna have to be a little more cautious.
Yeah.
I would agree.
Like if they announced Tales of the Sith, that would be very intriguing. But if they focus on like General Grievous or something, where he's really not the part of the Sith, but he has connections to it, I feel like that's kind of how I felt with this show.
Hmm. Yeah, it wasn't like real main characters, I guess.
Yeah.
It was two side characters. So hard to get uh just hard to get people on board with like everything.
And like I said with Tales of the Jedi, I feel like they did such a good job with primarily Dooku with explaining the things. They had the subtle hints to let you know what the time period was, like when he was in the library and they were saying, oh, people think Qui-Gon is crazy because he is talking about this Dark Lord. And then we get to see Dooku's side of it and how that complexity added to his character and why he turned. I just think that that was so much more, so much better storytelling than this. I think this was way more show, and you didn't really have to interpret anything. Whereas that one, you could interpret it and also get a really good episode out of it.
Right. This one we kind of just like see things happening and we're like, oh, okay, that's okay.
Yeah,
What are we watching next? What's on after this?
yeah. Living a little more mindlessly, I suppose.
Yeah. It was fun though. I still am happy that they made the project. Um, I don't think it's gonna do quite as well as its predecessor, but I still think it was cool.
I would agree, but I will also say I am way more likely to rewatch Jedi than Empire, which sounds like swearing in my language. You would think that I would be wanting to watch the Empire one way more than the Jedi.
Yeah. Not when they give you side characters though.
Yeah.
Give us the real stuff.
Sarah, did you have any last thoughts on the show?
No, I feel like you guys dived way deeper than what I thought of the show. It's all
Sarah
good.
just thought that it was on.
And it was interesting. It wasn't what I thought it was going to be. Um,
I think this echoes back to when Sarah tells the audience there's a Jeremy and probably now Austin lens of watching these shows, and then there's a Sarah lens of watching these shows.
Yeah, that's okay. No, I think the best shows uh are they're good for like a new watcher and they're good on like a rewatch because you can like look a little closer at things. So I think good shows have both, you know?
Yeah. I feel like they were interesting stories to tell. I just Morgan was lacking some behind the scenes stuff, so the story didn't quite make sense, which made her second and third episodes a little more boring because I just didn't really understand why she was doing what she was doing necessarily or what she was trying to achieve, right? Because we
Hmm.
knew why she was upset, but we didn't know what she was trying to do, really.
Right.
And then when it comes to Barris, I don't feel like that's a tale of the Empire. I guess it kind of is because that's her entangled in the Empire, but I was expecting somebody who was full-fledged Empire the entire time, and that's not what it was. So that's my struggles with these two characters.
You see what
Yeah.
I think would have been a great one? I think if we would have learned Tarkin's backstory, because if you haven't read the comics, he's actually really interesting. And I mean, there's Thrawn. He just was introduced in Ahsoka, and so all the people like me, I haven't read his books. I think that would have been really cool to explore what was his origin story, essentially. But maybe that would need more time because these are
Hmm.
shorts and they're kind of banking on us understanding a little bit before we watch it. So I don't know, maybe that would be a wrong step.
Yeah. And I don't want to ruffle any feathers here, but I can't help but notice that we have two female characters that we're like focused on for
I was
this,
kind of wondering
which
what,
just there's
yeah,
nothing wrong with that. I like the characters, but kind of what you're saying, if you only have the 6 shorts, are these really the characters that you want to use for Tales of the Empire? Like, it's such a cool title. You can only use that title once.
and you know
How
what?
long how long ago did we see Barris? Like Morgan is a
Long
very
time.
recent character, so it makes sense for Morgan. And let's pretend I've seen Clone Wars, so I know who Barris was. How long ago?
Probably,
I know exactly when it was.
go ahead.
It was the January after Disney Plus released. Because that's when the final season of the Clone Wars dropped. I'm pretty
Oh,
sure.
right. Okay.
What year was that? I don't
Long
even
time
know.
ago. I don't
Okay.
know.
Wait,
20,
she was in
Clone
the
Wars.
final season?
wasn't she?
I don't
Or was it the season before the final season?
I don't think so. I feel like this has been like buried for 10 years or something. I thought that was why people were really excited for the Barris story.
Because
Because this
didn't
is like,
didn't Ahsoka walk away in the final season?
mm, I can't remember. It's been so long now. She walks away before, like season 4 or 5, I thought.
Ahsoka?
Yeah.
Well, anyway,
I don't know. I'm lost.
my
Haven't watched
point
it in a
was that I
while.
feel like Morgan is a very relevant character. She's been in the shows, at least two shows, very recently. So to me, it makes sense to have her. In terms of
Yeah.
in terms of Barris, I haven't seen it, so I can't really speak to the excitement for her.
I don't know. As far as the topic of the female situation, what I was thinking is I really hope what doesn't happen is when this show potentially has a worse reception than Tales of the Jedi, I hope that isn't the fallback. People don't like it because it's two females. That is not the case. This one was definitely not as well written. There probably
Hmm.
could have been way more interesting things we could have learned about Morgan and probably a little bit different with Barris. I think half of her story was pretty compelling and the second half, not so much. Um, so I think it comes down to the writing on those. But if you were talking about Tales of the Empire, and even if we picked female characters, okay, I talked about that TIE fighter pilot. We could have learned about her Empire days. We really don't We know that she turns eventually, yes, but we don't know how she became part of it. Her dad was, I believe, like a lieutenant or general, so you can learn about that stuff. Um, yeah, there's so many stories I feel like that could have been interesting, but I don't know. It is what it is.
Yeah.
Did you happen to figure out when the last time we saw her was?
Varys,
Yeah.
perhaps season 5 of Clone Wars is kind of what I'm seeing.
Okay.
Because that's when the trial happens.
Oh,
Or at least when they try to like chase Ahsoka through the sewers. Uh,
I think you're right. I'm trying to piece it all together, but I think you're right.
I was hoping this had the episodes. It doesn't. I'm just on the wiki right now.
All
But
right. Well, we've hit that hour mark, so I think we should probably wrap it up here.
yeah.
I think overall we were very excited for the show. Didn't quite land as hard or as well as Tales of the Jedi, and I think moving forward, of course, I'm going to be excited to see the next Tales of whatever they decide. I just hope that they learn that the what was special about the first season didn't exactly carry over to the second. Maybe they could take some more time with that and establish some more stuff with it. So, uh, if you enjoy this type of video, make sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. That way you are notified when our future Star Wars discussions drop. We got Acolyte right around the corner next month. So, looking forward to that. We will be back for it. Drops a like if you like the video and drops a comment letting us know your thoughts on Tales of the Empire. Were we completely wrong and did you see a different side of things or did you kind of agree with us and notice all the little nitpicks that we did? And then as always, everybody, thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.